Welcome on, bienvenue. Welcome to the United Nations of Horror. We're your host, Mark and Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So today we are talking about a pair of films, and we both kind of came to this in different ways, didn't we? But we both agreed we were going to do it.
Indeed, yeah.
And they are Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Now, from say your reasons for wanting to cover these.
Well, I had heard of Terrifier quite a long time back. It got a pretty good bit of buzz in the kind of horror community back a couple of years ago, and so I finally watched the first one, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first one, and we'll get into that. And then, of course, the second one came out and actually had more of a limited theatrical release here in the States.
Yeah.
And so I was very excited about that. And, I even picked up the Blu-ray and got the T-shirt. So I figured that's how I'm really into something, if I get the shirt.
Yeah.
Now, how about you, Mark?
Well, I am trying because in about a month we're going to try and do a 2022 retrospective of horror.
Yes.
And I tend to get a bit OCD about these things. If you remember, when we did that Dracula episode, I watched 50 Dracula films.
I do remember that.
Do you remember that? And I'm kind of doing the same with 2022. I thought there were 10 that might be to watch, and that grew to 20, and then grew to 30, and it's become 52. 52, and that doesn't include ones I've already watched from 2022, so there's probably like 60 films. Now when we review it, we're obviously never going to go into detail about those 60 films, but I want to touch on all of them. I figured maybe this time we won't do like what's your top 10 or what's your bot, we'll just shoot the breeze.
Yeah,
and I realise because I'm OCD about these things, I'll have watched more than you, but we can comment on each of them. So, and Terrifier 2 came out in 2022, so I wanted to watch Terrifier 2, and of course if I'm going to watch Terrifier 2, I need to watch Terrifier, right?
Indeed,
so that was my rationale for it. So we both wanted to cover it for different reasons. Mine was I want to see the second one, which means I want to watch the first one, and I'm happy to talk about it, and you wanted to talk about it anyway, so that's kind of it.
Yeah, it definitely came together very well, I feel like.
Yeah. And I did ask for feedback on this, and we got some quite lengthy feedback, but some of it's not exactly spoilers, but I think it'll make more sense if we cover the feedback after we've talked about the films, because they'll be slightly more contextualized. And I have to say, we're going to have spoilers throughout this. However, this is a slasher movie, right? So do you care? I don't know. There is that. I mean, if you really care, don't continue listening, go watch them and then come back, but it's up to you.
You've watched Halloween, you kind of get the gist of it.
Yeah, and talking of which, I did actually watch Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends on my OCD thing. I'll save more discussion about that when we do the 2022 review, but blimey, wow. Halloween Ends. Oh my goodness.
I look forward to hearing what you think of that one, because that's kind of divisive to say the least at this point. Maybe not even divisive, really.
Let's just say some very interesting decision making was made for this one. Let's put it that way. Right. Anyway. Okay, let's get on to our main subject, which is Terrifier.
What's wrong?
I'm fine. Why?
Keep looking over your shoulder.
What if that guy did this to your car?
What guy? The clown? Do you really think someone slashed my tires?
He knows this is your car. He saw us getting into it earlier.
Hey, handsome!
Cut it out.
My friend wants your number.
Kill you.
Look, that guy was harmless. He was just some douchebag in a costume acting like a retard because it's Halloween.
calm and stay on the line with me until the police arrive.
Now, this has been on my radar for quite some time as well, because Art the Clown, the main character, the slasher in this, it's got a very distinctive look, and that picture was around a fair bit. So it's always been kind of intriguing. Now, so this was made in 2016, an independent film. Slasher really harking back to the mid-80s slasher boom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And early 80s and mid-80s. With a touch of Herschel Gordon Lewis in this in terms of the gore content. This is a gorehounds film, for sure.
Ooh, yeah, that's definitely something I think we need to discuss, particularly about the second film. But
yes.
we might as well go ahead and go into it a little bit. I mean, it does not hold back, man.
There's blood everywhere, every surface, ceiling, everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's, but now apparently this is the second film to feature Art the Clown.
It is,
and I haven't seen that first film, so when I found out, I was kind of almost tempted to go, shall I go watch that? But I didn't. And that was he featured in a horror anthology film called All Hallows Eve, made in 2013. So this is not the first appearance of Art the Clown. He was in that film, and I'm kind of tempted to go back because I quite like. I had issues with 2, which we'll get into, but this first one I kind of enjoyed enough to think, you know what, I'd watch an anthology with this character. I quite like the character.
I do too. I think he's legitimately freaky. I mean, even if you just see a picture of him, it's like, ooh, that's a nasty character, you know. I have seen All Hallows Eve, and it's flawed, but I do think the Art the Clown segments are the strongest stuff in it. I do think it's worth watching for that alone, actually. If you enjoyed particularly Terrifier 1.
Yeah, and apparently this film, Terrifier, was made on a budget of $35,000, which is amazing.
That's crazy to me.
And apparently it was specifically written to showcase the practical effects. That it was really a showcase film, which again is better than that would imply. I'd say it doesn't feel like it's just a showcase thing. There's some great effects, but actually there's something developed in this. I also like the actor who played Art the Clown. His movement and gesturing were kind of eerie and weird and funny at the same time.
Yeah, David Howard Thornton, right?
Yes.
He really is tremendous. I don't know much about him besides this film, but as you say, the way he moves and the way he does kind of the miming thing, because Art the Clown, he really doesn't speak.
No.
So it's all about that movement, and sometimes it comes off as very funny, and sometimes it comes off as very, very scary.
And when you think about it, mimes can be kind of like that. Sometimes they're kind of fun, but they're a bit weird, mimes anyway, right? And this is leaning heavily into that. This guy is essentially a mime, but with the ability to sort of chop your head off at the drop of a hat. He's that kind of guy. I quite like this. Now apparently Art was played by someone else in All Hallows Eve, just so you know. But this guy...
Oh, really? I didn't realize it.
Yeah, so this guy was pretty good. And it quickly kind of became a cult film, according to Wikipedia. And then finally a sequel, Terrifier 2, came out in 2020, end of 2022. So, So it starts with someone watching a TV show where this very slick hostess of the TV show is interviewing a woman who is absolutely disfigured. I mean, I mean, her face is kind of melted off and her eyes hanging out, kind of thing. It's not the thing they would really put on TV, frankly, except a late night show, because it's just too much.
Kind of harkens back to the 80s almost, like something you'd see there.
Yeah, and essentially, she's interviewing the sole survivor of this massacre that took place on the previous Halloween involving Art the Clown. And also there's a mention that the body of the killer disappeared from the morgue, and it's possible he's still alive.
Yeah.
But the woman sort of says, no, he's dead. And then we see the man watching it kick the telly. So there's an implication there that that's Art the Clown watching the telly, maybe. There's kind
Indeed.
of that implication. But we don't know. We don't know. And then we see the lady host, on the phone talking about how disgusting this woman looked and stuff like that. It's not very nice.
No, not at all.
And then the woman attacks her and kind of gouges out her eyes on camera while laughing her head off, like she's Art the Clown, kinda. But Art the Clown wouldn't be laughing his head off loudly, would he? Art the Clown doesn't make noise. So that, I mean, there's the special effects reel if ever you saw one. That whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and I think the fact that the director does most of these effects is just super impressive. I mean, we go on and on a lot on this show in particular about like practical effects and how for horror films in particular, they're far more superior to putting in CG, and I believe this really proves that. And I had read that too going into this first film, and that's another reason I wanted to see it, because we're big fans of the practical stuff here on UNH.
Yeah, I mean, it was very reminiscent of late 80s practical effects, definitely. Then we cut to two friends. It's a Halloween night, and they've just left a Halloween party. Now it's Tara and Dawn. I quite like these two.
I do too.
They're right as well. I particularly like Tara, the dark-haired one. I thought she was quite good. And I thought I'd seen her in something,
here.
but I couldn't find anything she was in that I've seen, so I think she just must look like someone. She reminded me a bit of now I always get the pronunciation wrong, but is it Neve Campbell in Scream?
Oh yeah.
A little.
She does kind of have that look about her.
So they're walking down the street and then encounter Art the Clown, who's just goofing about. Now he also goes into the pizza place. Doesn't Dawn then ask for a selfie and kind of sit on his lap?
Yeah, I don't think she even asks. I think she just kind of goes over and takes it. And
just stands there.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't care.
Then he goes to the toilet and does something disgusting on the walls. It's suggested he's smearing poo over the walls.
Yeah, I gotta say that was one of the. You don't even see everything, but you see enough. And
yeah, from his hands. Hands.
I was like, oh god.
And we got like the manager and a gopher working in there, and the gopher is sent in to clean it all up, and he's like, I want time and a half for this. He's going.
Poor guy.
I'm not surprised. Now these two weren't great actors, it has to be said, but okay.
Yeah, they kind of get the job done for what it is. I think, like, maybe an Italian pizza place. Like, I don't know where this is supposed to be, if it's like New Jersey or somewhere, but
feels like it's NJ. Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Philly or somewhere like that, right?
Right, exactly.
Somewhere sort of slightly run down on the East Coast. That's how it kind of feels. So then Art gets kicked out, and then when the girls leave the pizza place, Dawn finds she's got some slashed tires. So at that point, Tara calls her sister Vicky, who's studying all night for some exam, to come pick her up, and she's like, I'm studying. Okay. And then they bump into a bloke who's doing pest control on some derelict or empty building, a guy called Mike, to if she can go in to use the toilets, right?
Just an every night, I guess, working guy,
Yeah.
I like this guy, actually. He seemed like a real person,
Yeah, I thought it was, again, not a great actor, but quite a good presence on the screen. Yeah,
convincing.
Yeah. And then when she gets inside, she meets a mad woman who's cat lady, who's carrying around a doll and acting like it's a baby. Yes. Okay.
Disturbing stuff. Yeah. And sad. I felt legitimately bad for this woman. I mean, we don't know what she has, what she's been through, really. Yeah. And we really don't get a lot of information on her, unfortunately. She's kind of this homeless lady who's probably been there for years and years,
Yeah. In fact, the director did say afterwards he kind of regrets the underdeveloped characters, how many of the characters are underdeveloped, including the protagonist. And I don't agree with that. I think they're quite well developed, those two girls.
Yeah, I think they were okay, but the other characters, I would say, I kind of
a bit less than.
Yeah,
there could have been a little more, but you know what? This film doesn't outstay its welcome. It's
It
under
doesn't.
90 minutes, and that's
And
a welcome for a slasher.
And you've got to have cannon fodder. It's just that's how it is.
Oh yeah. Also, we cut back to the pizza place, and we see Art dispatching the two guys in very nasty ways. He's pretty brutal. He's pretty brutal. Let's face it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe Dawn goes in to find her, to find her friend, but
Tara,
of course, to find Tara. But then, of course, she ends up getting caught by Art the Clown, and the way she is dispatched is, it is a thing of nightmares.
She's very 80s. She's suspended upside down, topless. Her top has been removed, with her legs akimbo, open, just tied to do different chains. And then we see Art pull out a hacksaw and do what you think must be one of the worst things you've ever seen.
It is. Oh man, it's hard to watch. I mean, and not much really bothers me in horror films anymore because we've kind of seen it all. I feel like.
Yeah.
But just when you think you've seen it all.
What made it a little more bearable was how gleeful Art was when he was doing it.
He loves it.
Made it silly.
Indeed, he's almost like the Joker in a way.
Now Tara manages to. She puts up a bit of a fight, and she tries to get away. Puts up a bit of a fight, but then Art shoots her dead. I think, right?
Yeah,
which is a surprise.
Brutally. Yeah, the gun.
Surprise.
I didn't see the gun coming.
No, and I thought Tara was going to be the final girl as well. So
I think we all did.
A surprise.
Yeah.
Did we say we're doing spoilers?
I guess we should probably preface that now.
Bit late.
Excuse me.
The cat lady sees this and goes to Mike to call the police, but Mike's like, "Yeah, you're a mad cat lady."
Yeah.
But then Art hits him in the head with a hammer, and we don't see what happens to him. Right? He just, that's Mike. And then the cat lady finds Art just holding her doll. And she asks for it back, but shows him some kindness. She actually cuddles him, doesn't she? Like he's her son or something.
Yeah.
And Art responds to this in a very weird way, right?
Yeah, unfortunately he does.
Yeah.
The cat lady should have just run, honestly.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know.
Yeah. He does a bit of a bit of a leather face on her, really. He kind of takes parts of her body and is wearing it, and he's wearing a scalp.
So disturbing, man. My God. I mean, like I said, I've seen some disturbing stuff, but you got to really have kind of a thick skin for this.
You do. This is for horror fans only. Really, it's not going to appeal to anyone else. That has to be.
I agree. Like it's unrated, but I mean, I would say like if it was going to be rated, it would be a hard NC-17.
Yes. So Vicky then arrives, but I can't remember. It's something to do with the phone, isn't it? Does she hear her sister's phone ringing as she's ringing it in her head or something?
Well, I believe she hears Dawn's phone first because she discovers her, and she's still, just splayed out, and of course she knows something is very wrong then, and she runs, and I know she does find her sister eventually, right? But of course Art the Clown is there. And he has no intention of letting her go.
So also a co-worker, Mike, turns up looking for Mike. He gets Art does him in pretty much straight away as soon as he turns up. I felt bad for this guy too, because he's about to leave, and then he's like, I'm gonna go find Mike and make sure he's okay, and just leave, man, just leave. That's what he gets for being a nice guy, right? So then it's a kind of Vicky still trying to evade Art, but when she finds her dead sister, and she grieves. But then Art starts whipping her with this weird whip. Is made of like chains with not like, is it knives or metal objects?
I wasn't sure. Something is on there for sure.
Very nasty. It's very nasty. But then suddenly Mike appears and knocks him out. Basically, the two of them run away and call 911. But then Art gets Mike then.
Yeah.
And then Vicky goes into a garage and Art just drives a truck into it, hitting Vicky, I think. And then Art begins to claw and eat her face. Right?
Yeah, and the cops arrive at that point too, and so they're witnessing all this. Like, oh my god!
Yeah, but then Art shoots himself in the mouth with a gun.
Yeah.
So essentially, Vicky's face has been destroyed by what's gone on, right? But she's still alive. So the body, Art's body's taken to the morgue, along with all the bodies of his victims. But when the coroner, or the mortician or whatever it is, unzips Art's body bag, Art suddenly springs to life and strangles him. So, which leaves me: was that a trick that Art did with the gun? Probably, right? Or is Art supernatural?
That's the big debate, right? I tend to think that this was still going for a supernatural vibe, and I mean, this is even before seeing the second one. So I think Art. I mean, we'll speculate what he is more as we go on in the second one, but I do not believe Art is human. What do you think?
I think he's human, but he's mad. There is a weird, violent clown in another film I saw recently called Accident Man 2, and I'm trying to remember his name. Who basically an assassin is being hunted by assassins, right? So that is that kind of action film, right? But one of the things is there's a clown. One of them is a clown and dresses as a clown. But the thing is, you find out that clown has no pain receptors, so he could take.
Oh wow.
He could take loads of damage without really feeling it. Sorry, did I say Hitman or did I say Accident Man? Can you
Accident Man, I believe.
Accident Man 2. Yeah. I'm just looking up the name of the clown because I can't remember. It was something like Roger the Clown or something. It wasn't Art the Clown, but it was something like that. I'm just looking it up. So Poco the Killer Clown.
Oh wow. I like the name.
It kind of made me think while I was watching this. I was thinking of Poco the Killer Clown too. So no, I think it might have been a trick, but I don't know. The second film kind of does suggest supernatural more, doesn't it? Kinda. Or there's supernatural elements. So what we will then find is that woman at the beginning is Vicky, right? That I was being ultimately practical. I was thinking, how comes he's got a bright white suit and there's blood everywhere? Why would he wear a bright white suit? But this is Art the Clown, right? So
he's a psycho. Yeah.
Okay, so that was fun. Should we? I mean, we could rate this, or we could rate the two of them when we've talked about Terrifier 2. I'm easy either way.
Why don't we go ahead and rate this one? What are your thoughts, Mark?
Okay, yeah, it was okay. It was no more than that. I liked the fact it was short. There were some iconic moments, but it was a bit strong for me. I don't mind a bit of gore, but this was taking it a little far, but enough so that I still had fun. Not too far. But I didn't think it was a great film. I thought it was an okay film. So I personally would give this 6 out of 10.
Oh wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So how do you find it?
I'm a lot higher on it than that, but I mean, I do think that there are times, and I guess this is where, well, we'll get into the topic of censorship when we talk about Terrifier 2, but
yeah, how
much is too much? There are parts in this that I felt were maybe too far. I mean, what a person watches in their own home is their own business. So, I mean, this kind of thing does have the right to come out, in any format, particularly in a video format. But I think the special effects are really good. I think the story is it's a callback to the 80s. It's not gonna like change your life or anything, but it's well done. So I would be right at an 8 for this first one.
Oh, you liked it. You liked it way more than I did.
I did. Yeah. I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it more, actually.
No, I think I'm a bit burnt out on slashers. I do watch a lot.
Understand.
When I go back to, I tend to watch the 80s, and they are kind of iconic. So, but I appreciate there's a strong element of nostalgia that tinges them too. I'm trying to think which 80s, this was most like. It's hard to say because none of them. I mean, Jason is really not that gory, to be honest.
No, it's really not. Maybe
also
Halloween too.
Possibly, yeah. That's not a bad match. The fact Michael Myers keeps getting up. Oh, I also kind of felt like he was leaning a little into the Pennywise vibe.
Oh yeah,
in a non-supernatural way, really. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I'm glad I watched it. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I'd give this 6 out of 10, and you give it 8 out of 10. So yeah, fair enough.
Indeed.
Okay, Terrifier 2.
So, did you figure out what you're dressing up as tomorrow?
He wants to dress up as a real guy who murdered 9 people last year.
Oh, you're not doing that.
It's just a costume. You think that guy's still out there?
What's up with you and this clown all of a sudden? You're like obsessed.
They never found his body. What if he decides to come back here?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Wait a minute, aren't you that guy from the costume shop?
Sir, what are you doing?
It wasn't me.
He was covered in blood on his shirt and his hands when he got here.
I'm telling you, it was him, Allie. Right down to the little black dot on the tip of his nose.
You're really weird, you know that?
I believe him.
About what? Something really bad's gonna happen tonight.
No, I know when Jonathan's lying, okay? I could hear it in his voice. Something's wrong.
Look, we're gonna have fun. Stress-free environment.
Yep.
Speaking of surprises, kids, we have a very special guest with us today, all the way from Miles County. Please welcome Art the Clown.
Now, this came out in 2022, 6 years after the original, and apparently it was kind of hinged on a Kickstarter campaign to just do one scene in this film, which is like a very infamous scene, I think. I think it's that scene we're talking about. But that then grew into... They wanted to get 50K on Indiegogo just to do that one scene, but they actually managed to raise 250K.
I mean, that's
donations, which then allowed them to make this film. Now, first thing I'm going to say about this film is long film.
Yes. Needlessly so?
Yes. 138 minutes. That is much too long for a slasher. Honestly.
I do agree.
Way too long. And many of the scenes were extended beyond what was reasonable, I would say. They weren't bad. There's not a scene where I was thinking, I wish this scene would end. They were fine.
Yeah.
But when the whole film has that kind of bloat, it just makes it this length, and that is a problem. It could be edited down to a much neater, I'd say take 25 minutes off. But even that puts it just under 2 hours, which is still too long for a slasher.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of plot. So, okay. There was a lot going on.
There's a lot of good stuff, but I agree, like some parts, and, we'll get into it further, but like the dream sequence needed to be cut down a lot.
Yeah, there was all sorts. The dream sequence in particular, like, is this ever going to end? I was thinking at one point. But I didn't mind it when I was watching it. That's not to say it was boring me or anything. It's just it felt like... This feels like... Because I have to say, the dream sequence is reminding me of Freddy. It was Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing, wasn't it?
It was. That's a good comparison.
But they, if you watch Nightmare, they don't last that long. They are punchy. Because at some point, people realise they're in it, and that's part of the terror. Whereas this just went on and on and on.
I think that's the beauty of Nightmare on Elm Street, though, is, the fact that they are pretty quick watches. And I mean, I do appreciate the character development in this too. So, I mean, some of that I would have left, but then some of it I would have been like, you don't need this extra person getting killed here necessarily, and because also some of the kills are drawn out a little bit too long for my personal taste.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it could have been made a little punchier for sure.
Yeah. For sure. So this one, I kind of like some elements of it, though. That's to say, it isn't entirely without merit. There are some quite interesting elements. The new characters I thought were quite good. Certainly the main protagonist, I thought she was quite good. And there's
really
also
like
an element
yeah.
around art that we'll get to shortly. So it opens with basically the end of the last film where Art is killing the coroner. And then now this answers my question of, well, is there a clown in a white suit? He's covered in blood. Isn't that really obvious? Where he basically goes to a laundromat to clean all his blood covered clothes, and he's just sitting there in his underwear with full mask on, while there's another guy in there doing his laundry who just sits there.
Yeah, he's like sleeping.
Yeah. But this is where we see a new element creep in. We see Art sitting there, and a weird little girl in full clown makeup appears, who's credited as the little pale girl. She is. They play patty cake. And actually, doesn't the other bloke woke up at one point and see Art kind of doing patty cake in the air?
Just with himself, yeah. I mean, it is a disturbing sequence, the whole thing. But it's very well done.
Yeah. It's quite effective. That little girl that makeup and the way the little girl conducts herself is very effective. It's kind of, you're thinking, is it ghostly? Is he just mad and he's just seeing this vision? Which seems more likely, frankly. Or is this a real thing? And again, we'll talk about this as we go on.
Yeah, there's more to it. But I mean, people are already speculating who this little girl is. I've heard some people say, "Oh, it's the first child he killed." Going back to All Hallows Eve. Maybe the first child he killed at a carnival. I've heard that theory. And I know there are some comic books out that feature Art the Clown, which I've not read.
Really, that's interesting.
Indeed. So
it's got a bigger mythology than these two films. Well, we certainly knew about All Hallows Eve, but there's more to Art the Clown than these two films. Okay,
yes,
okay, I can see that. I can kind of see the character going on and on, but I have to say that any third film would have to be proper punchy, like the first film was punchy, right?
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And I think Leone, I mean, I've heard him mention like he wants to do one more. Whether he does more than that, I guess we'll see. But I do think he could probably do one more for sure. I don't really want to see Art the Clown go on and on and on, but that seems to be, that's Hollywood, right?
Yeah, it makes money, they make a sequel. Yeah,
exactly.
So then Art kills the bloke. Doesn't he? Oh, he breaks isn't there a walking stick or something? And he breaks the walking stick and sticks it through the top of the bloke's head.
Yeah, I think we actually see it after the fact, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, okay.
So he actually, I guess, kills him off screen.
And then we see the body with a thing stuck in the top of his head, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh man, well, he didn't make it. And of course, we figured he's not going to, because
no,
survive an encounter with Art the Clown.
So what happens then is it's supposedly set a year later, which means it's set at the same time as that interview we saw in the first one.
Indeed.
So we see a young woman, I should say, finishing a Halloween costume, which is like an angel. It's like a bodice, like a leather bodice with angel wings, right?
Yeah. I kind of got like the Xena Warrior Princess vibes, but the whole angel thing going on. I thought it was cool. And, just to say that I, first impression of the actress who does her, Lauren Lavera, I believe is her name.
Yeah, she's good.
She plays Sienna Shaw, and I would say she's the best final girl I've seen in years. I mean, I think she was very excellent.
Good, very good. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Now, there's been some really good final girls actually, but really were, sit down and work out. There was a whole spate of really good ones about 2016, 2017 that I remember being very effective. There was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's been some very good ones. But she was good. Yeah, she was good.
Yeah.
I like this costume. Now, it turns out that the costume was, her father has passed away recently from a brain tumor, but he did all this artwork for her, and that costume's based on something her dad did. Well, her younger brother actually wants to dress as Art the Clown.
Oh, how ironic.
Now, who is in this universe a real killer, and like they're saying, look, it only happened a year ago. You can't dress as Art the Clown. That's ridiculous. And he said, but people go as Jeffrey Dahmer and this, that, and everything. Yeah, but it was last year. You can't,
It's funny that they say that because this past year, a lot of kids were dressing as Jeffrey Dahmer because of the Netflix show. And I was like, ooh, that's creepy,
that's
man.
Weird.
That's creepy. If I was a parent, I'd be like, no.
Yeah. So also, there's some implication. They're starting to wonder if the brother's all there is entirely okay, because he's kind of obsessed with a serial killer, and there's kind of intimations that, I think one character says at one point, do you find him torturing small animals or something like that?
Right.
The behavior of psychopaths and serial killers kind of thing. But that night, she's sleeping and she has a dream about art, a nightmare about art, which I quite liked, but it did go on way too long, didn't it?
It did. I'll agree. I thought it was cool, but yeah, too long.
Now, I like the whole scene of they're in a kids' play area, aren't they? And there's a woman sort of singing songs with a guitar who's got a fixed grin, so that looks weird. And then Art turns up, and but it does go on. It felt like 10 minutes. I'm sure it probably wasn't, but it really felt like a long time. Yeah.
To me too. I mean, I would say like a lot of weird Japanese kind of dream sequences. This kind of had that vibe to me, but again, just way too long. And then there's like the bit with the cereal, and just it goes on and on and on.
Oh yeah, the cereal. Was it Art? Like an art-based cereal, not Lucky Charms, but something with art. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, and they reference back to it in the next scene, but still, it just could have been shortened,
Yeah. So when she awakes, it turns out there's a fire happening on her dresser, which burns up the wings of her angel on her outfit, the angel wings on her outfit. But her sword, apparently, there's a sword which her father gave her, but that's totally all right, setting up something to come. So her and her friend have to go shopping for some new angel wings, in their essence.
I love this scene, by the way. It's just like you always have these Halloween shops here in the U.S. that kind of spring up every October, usually a little bit before. And if you've ever been in one of these really huge Halloween shops, you know exactly where this is in your local neighborhood. You go in, there's all these costumes. And of course, even the worker, I thought he was really like realistic. He's like someone you would meet in one of these stores,
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely good. Yeah. And so they're shopping around, and then Jonathan, the brother, sees Art and the little girl at the school playing with a dead animal. So he can see the little girl as well, right? So that's
Indeed.
something.
That's what got me. I was like, ooh, not good. This kid, what's wrong with him,
Yeah. And then also we see our main character, Sienna, her friends are talking about the whole thing that happened on the talk show, where the woman went mad, the disfigured woman went mad and attacked the hostess.
Right.
So they start talking, and it affects Sienna, doesn't it? She kind of gets a bit freaked out. But then Sienna and Ali go to this costume shop, trying to find these angel wings, and they run into Art. They think it's someone dressed as Art, right? And think it's just tasteless. That's that kind of thing. So basically, Art's almost got a free rein to walk around because people think he's a guy dressed as Art, right?
Exactly. It's the worst. I mean, it's Halloween 2, right?
Yeah. So yes, indeed. Then they leave the shop, and Art kills the bloke who's hassling him. The guy selling things in the shop is hassling him because he, he goes, get out. You're not buying anything. Just get out, kind of thing. And Art kills him. But then he tracks one of Sienna's friends back to her home. And man, whoa. This is probably one of the strongest things I've ever seen in a slasher movie.
Yeah.
It's basically physical disintegration. He is destroying this girl. It's not just cutting her and stabbing her. He is destroying. Which is weird. It made me think of, I know quite a lot about the history of Jack the Ripper, and the final murder he did was of that kind. It was like a bodily disintegration kind of murder.
Yeah. I'm interested in that history as well, but that's a good thing an interesting thing, I should say, not a good thing to harken back to, Mark. It's fascinating in a very disturbing way. But
he basically breaks off one of her eyes. He flays her, he skins her, he scalps her, he cuts her eye open. He does all sorts. He pulls things on her to make it even more painful. Takes off parts of her face. It's really horrible.
It is.
Actually.
And I think this is probably where the topic of censorship comes into play. Like, how much is too much?
Yeah.
Because people, this did have a limited theatrical release here in the States, and people were actually getting sick in the theater. And I'm pretty sure it was either this scene or maybe the scene with the brother with the dead animal, which I had to look away from myself. But man, I mean, I guess, when do you draw that line, Mark? Do you think there's ever a point? Because I gotta say, this was maybe that point for me.
I am a bit too dead inside horror fan to be too bothered by any of this. I can't say I got bored. It's just a bit of, okay, all right,
Yeah, it didn't make me sick
let's
either.
Draw a line under this. And then her mother stumbles in and sees what's happening, and Art kills her mother as well.
Indeed.
But she's still kind of twitching, which is some of that, right?
It's
too far. Well, maybe. It's not my kind of thing at all. But it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me because it's.
I'm a bit of a gorehound myself, so
if this was a realistic film, it would definitely have bothered me. But this is a slasher movie, so
okay. And that's a good point. That is a good point too. It's over the top for sure. Yeah, but man,
and I presume this is the scene that he was trying to raise 50,000 on Indiegogo for, just to do this scene. I suspect it's this, because this is a full-on. I mean, it's a very good set of effects. Very good. Yeah, it doesn't look fake. All such things kind of look a bit fake, but it's about as realistic as it could look. And it was kind of quite grim part.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sensitive to seeing this kind of stuff, I would say,
don't watch this.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe there are people that didn't know going in, since this had a limited release, and I don't know how, but this did not have an MPAA rating, so it's just not rated. And I don't know if that was because of COVID or what, but anyway, it's a lot of people complained, and I would just say to those people, maybe you should have read up on it a little bit.
Maybe.
It's kind of amazing the amount of people that will go see movies that know nothing about it,
Yeah, this feels like about 10 times stronger than anything we saw in the first one, though. So it was quite a surprise how grim it was, frankly.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm okay with it. I don't care. I don't feel like it needs to be removed or anything.
Oh, I don't either. I'm against that, for
it's
sure.
Just, it stops being fun when it goes on too long. That's the thing.
Yes.
I think it just gets a little boring, which sounds horrible compared to what the middle are talking about. It just gets a little dull once you have the same thing, going on and on. I should have mentioned they've got a mother. Yeah, she appears and is a bit of a nat. She's very foul-mouthed, this mother. Surprisingly so.
She's obviously been under a whole lot of stress with her husband, being ill and then passing away. And I think she's like an insurance salesperson working at home, and just seems very stressed out. I think life has not been very kind.
Oh yeah, she has to talk to horrible customers while she's like trying to look after the kids and stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So then Jonathan says he's found the father's sketchbook, which has art in it, and it's also got newspaper clippings of killings that Art did. And also, it kind of suggests the little pale girl was actually a girl called Emily Crane, who was his first victim, who was the daughter of circus performers.
Oh, see, I forgot about that clipping. Wow.
So that's who the little pale girl might be, his first victim.
I suppose that's why people have talked about that so much.
Yeah, so it's interesting to speculate. Is this just Art still feeling something about what he did to his first victim? No, never mind about all the rest, but his first, or is she a ghost that's haunting him in a sort of indirect way, in that she's not trying to scare him, she's just trying to be there around him to finally get a revenge, maybe, or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm curious. You know, they planted that seed very well.
Yeah. Jonathan says he thinks his dad knew how to stop Art. In fact, the mother tears up the sketchbook, doesn't she? And then slaps him, and he runs off.
Yeah, pretty brutal scene there. Like I felt like the mother went a little over the top. How did you feel?
Yeah, a little. But I guess she's very stressed. They do set up she's quite stressed.
She is.
So that's no excuse, but that's the kind of setup. Then she goes out and her car's been. Is it TP'd? I can't remember. Something has happened to her car. She assumes it's Jonathan, and she says, "I'm gonna kill her." It's all that.
Oh yeah, she's mad.
But when while she's cleaning it, Art pops up and kills her, basically. Then Jonathan comes back and he finds his dead mother, and Art chases him, catches him, and then runs off with him. He also takes Sienna's sword as well. So that's something.
Meanwhile, she's out at that club, right?
Yeah, and she finds out her friends put a bit of drugs in her drink, which because she needed to calm down. And she's like, "You did what?" She's not happy.
Not pleased.
And then her friend and his boyfriend, Jeff, say they'll drive her home. Now, this guy's T-shirt did make me laugh. It was a big knife with blood on the end, and it just said, "just the tip." That made me laugh. They're driving home, but when we see, this is weird, we see the pale little girl pretending to be Jonathan to call in Sienna to say, "Come and get me at this carnival." And it's basically a closed carnival with a Terrifier haunted house thing. Okay.
Never a good sign when.
Let's go to a deserted. Yeah, let's go to a deserted fun house when there's a serial killer in.
Yeah, on Halloween.
On Halloween
of all nights. But that's her little brother, so she's gonna go and make sure he's okay. And of course, his phone supposedly cuts out. They have trouble with the cell phones.
Yeah, of course. So then Art basically dispatches both Jeff pretty graphically, and also Brooke. Doesn't he throw acid in her face and then pull out her heart?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So
well,
you're getting the tone of this film, right? We're getting
very, very gritty.
So then Sienna stumbles over the corpses and starts fighting with Art, trying to get away, really. But Art again knocks her out. So when she wakes up, she finds out Art using the weird cat and nine tails on her little brother.
That stuff is brutal, man.
But she kind of gets enraged and starts just fighting back and using his own stuff against him.
Which is pretty cool. You definitely get a real strong final girl comeback, which is exactly what we want as an audience. Like we're vested in her getting out of this somehow, and I was feeling it, man. That's why I have to say I think she's such a really, really good final girl. As far as recent final girls in horror films in our modern era. I really could relate to Sienna, and maybe some of it is the cosplay thing and the anime reference and all that. But I think younger viewers, who are maybe new to horror movies. And I'd be interested to hear that take too, like what kind of younger, 18 to like 30 demographic kind of thinks. Because we're both out of that. So,
Yeah, indeed. I have to say, it made me thought of some other Final Girls that fight back. And I'll tell you, two sprung to mind, and they're older than this girl. One's only a little older, and one's quite a bit older. The Hunt with Betty. Is it Tilpin? Betty. Oh, you know the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're right about
awesome.
her. That was awesome. Yeah.
And there's another one called Ready or Not. Well, a girl is married into a family that have built their fortune on board games.
Oh yeah.
But it turns out they play games, and the game tonight, that night, is Hunt Down the Bride, right? Or the bride to be. She was a good Final Girl too.
I've seen the ad for that, but I've not watched it.
Oh, it's really, you'll enjoy it.
I got to check that one out.
So there's a couple of others. So they kill her, but he comes back to life. So here we go. We're in Michael Myers territory.
Yeah.
Or Jason, right?
Absolutely.
He just keeps coming back. So they keep killing him, and he keeps coming back. But eventually, he does get Sienna with the sword.
Yeah.
And then does he throw her in a cell or something? Or he locks her in.
I know he throws her down in some sort of pit. I'm trying to remember if it was a cell. It's been like a month since I've watched this actually.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But this was my second viewing, to be fair. So
yeah, and then he's about to attack Jonathan again, but Sienna then comes back to life. Somehow the sword kind of brings her back, and she basically goes and chops Art's head off. And then the best bit of the film, in my opinion, we see the little pale girl come and get Art's head.
Oh, so creepy. And those glowing eyes when she looks back at Sienna and her brother. Oh my God, man. Really freaked me out. I love it.
Yeah. And then we have like the maddest mid-credit scene you'll ever see in your life.
Indeed.
Involving Vicky, the disfigured girl, giving birth to Art's head.
Right.
While a nurse starts screaming her up, well, first she's just sitting there like holding her belly and blood's going everywhere. It's like, oh my God, what's going on here? This is not
she's like throwing up.
Ladies. Yeah. And then it ends. So that was mad. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, is the head of Art going to like get another body now? Like, where do you does the next film just start on next Halloween? Is it
going to be like Deadpool? Is it going to grow a little body which gets bigger? That would be mad, right?
I can see them doing it, man. I mean, these guys. Yeah. Woo. Oh wow!
Now there were a couple of. We didn't mention, but there were a couple of characters I recognised from other things in this. There was a character who was a bit of a school bully kind of guy called Eric, who's played by Griffin Santopietro, who is Anthony in Cobra Kai. He's the youngest son of Danny in the Cobra Kai series. Also, I don't know if you caught this, but Felissa Rose, her from Sleepaway Camp. She plays an annoyed principal, right? Or teacher. Her name is Principe, Mrs. Principe.
Yeah, I really did mark out for that. I mean, she's horror royalty, right? So.
Oh yeah, man. I saw her recently. I watched one of the last drive-ins, the Sleepaway Camp. My favourite episode of Last Drive-In that I've seen, and I've seen quite a few, but not all of them, is the Sleepaway Camp one where he has Felissa Rose on as a guest. That was amazing.
That one's funny, man.
That one's really good. I mean, Sleepaway Camp's good anyway.
It is.
When you have Joe Bob and Felissa Rose talking about it, it's even better.
Man.
So there was a couple of famous faces in there, or semi-famous. Those are two I recognised anyway.
Chris Jericho he plays a janitor at the end, which I had heard he was going to be in the film. So the whole film, I'm thinking, where's Chris Jericho in this? Like, what?
So he's a wrestler, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a big time pro wrestler.
Yeah, his role is not a wrestler's role, is it? He's a nurse or something, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's security.
Security
nurse, and he just has a very small role, but it's cool that he's in there nonetheless. Just I mean, he's a big horror guy. He's been on actually The Last Drive-In before as well. So
Is he?
He
Okay.
loves horror movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
big
but
horror guy.
I have to say the makeup for Vicky at the end is slightly different from the first film, but it's better and really good, really good.
Yeah.
So again, can't fault the effects. Cannot fault the effects at all.
And I like the story that they told. You know, I think that the flaw, as we said, is the pacing in this film compared to the first one, right?
Yeah, and then just the sheer length, not even the pacing. I don't think the ordering of the scenes or the content of the scenes are at fault. I think the story's fine. I just think it was way too baggy and needed tightening up here, there, and everywhere. I think you could take a good 20 minutes out and make a better film somewhere. It's just you got to decide where. I mean, the obvious ones are the extended sort of hacking stuff, but there's also the dream sequence is way too baggy. It had lots of eerie elements, but they got dispersed by the sheer length of it. And it would have been much more impactful if it was been punchier and short. A bit like Freddy's ones, right?
Exactly. That's really probably the prime example of how you do a perfect kind of dream sequence. And I mean, this was freaky. It was good, as you say, but just the length of it, man, way too long.
Yeah, it casts. You have to say this director casts his protagonist very well.
Oh yeah. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think all the cast is really good. You know, I think the already mentioned Lauren Lavera. You know, her brother Jonathan, also really, really good. Elliot Fulham is his name.
Okay.
The mother, I mean, really just everyone I thought was quite strong.
So,
even the little minor friend characters that, you know, she had that we knew were probably going to get killed and do, you know, I thought they were likable and memorable and, you know, they were, I mean, the important thing in cinema is that you buy into these characters and the reality that they've made in these films. And I bought into all that.
So in many respects, I thought it was pretty good, but there was others where it's like, I mean, 2 hours, 20 minutes. It was, I had to watch it in 2 sittings. I could not sit and watch 2 hour and 20 minute slasher movie. I could sit and watch a 2 hour, 20 minute epic story, a western or, you know, gangster film or something like that. But not a slasher movie. That is not what it's about. I mean, even some of the Marvel films, which are spectacular, 2 hours, 20 minutes is too long for those.
I agree.
You know? And
totally
they've got a whole lot more going on. So yeah, this was way too extended. Okay, should we rate this?
Yeah. Do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. So I still love this one a lot. I think the first one is overall a little bit stronger for me, but I will say the effects better in this one and even more brutal. So if you've come for the brutality and the gore, Terrifier 2 gets it done. But I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10, and the first one I give an 8. So
so the first one I gave a 6. I'm much the same as you. There were definite elements I really liked, and if it had been tighter, I think this would have been a better film. But overall, given it isn't tight and so on, I actually do prefer the first one quite a bit more than the second. So I'd give this a 5. 5 out of 10.
Fair enough.
So yeah, wasn't too taken with these. Didn't mind them. I'd probably watch a third unless I found out it was over 2 hours. Then I probably wouldn't. Seriously.
I understand that,
but this was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, a 5 is okay. You know.
It's
average, totally average. That's
5 out of 10. Yeah, it's right in the middle. I am curious again. You know, for the kind of to get the younger horror fans' perspective on this, because I feel like they might enjoy it more than we would. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I've seen a lot of like raving about it on Twitter and other social media, like Reddit. You know, people really seem invested in this franchise. And so, I mean, I like it, but I'm with you. I don't love it. I don't think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But I am excited that there is kind of a new bad guy in town, if you will, like a new.
Art was distinct enough to be his own thing. Because at first it was like, oh, is this a bit Michael Myers meets Pennywise? But no, Art, his style and what his movements, certainly more in the first film than the second one, actually, are kind of interesting. I think it was more interesting in the first one, which is another reason I rate it slightly higher, I think.
Same.
Let's get on to the feedback. So I asked a few weeks ago, we were going to record a week ago, but, sickness and life got in the way, so we're recording now. And I did ask at the time in the UNH Facebook group for some feedback, if there was any feedback about these, and I got some. So these are quite long, so I'll just get started, right?
All right.
First is from Lucas Dickerson. Hi, Lucas. And he says, I'm very happy that UNH is covering the Terrifier movies. I'm a huge slasher fan in general, so I definitely gravitated to these, and I love them both. The first is dark, nasty, and gritty with mean-spirited, brutal kills. I love that story swerves us on who the final girl is. It does. It definitely does, yeah. In a psycho kind of way, right?
Yeah, they did that very well.
Yeah, then part 2 takes that forward and ramps it up to a crazy degree. We get a more fleshed out story that hints at Art's mythology, complete with an imaginary sidekick in the pale little girl. The kills are more brutal and nasty than anyone expected. Sienna as a final girl is amazing and totally badass. I get that some think it's too long, that's fair. But the length wasn't an issue for me. I love both these movies, both are 10s for me.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I don't get how any slasher fans don't like these movies, but will hold up a dud like The Mutilator as a masterpiece. I haven't seen that, so I couldn't possibly comment. The original anthology, All Hallows Eve, that features art is also very good. I recommend anyone that likes these to see that if they haven't. I might try and catch All Hallows Eve, but I'm right in the middle of my OCD 2022 horror film watching.
Maybe after, right?
I probably need to decompress from horror once I've done those as well, so it'll probably be a little time.
It's always good to take a break, even if as much as we love horror. But I'm really I'm interested in that, Lucas, because he does think of it like higher than we do. Like he's giving it a higher rating. And I think we don't dislike Terrifier by any means, but he really loves Terrifier, and that's kind of the overall kind of vibe I've been getting from the internet. People really have taken to this, and in many ways I see why. It is good,
and good that we live in a world where things like this can come out, because if you like them, that's fine, and if you don't, that's fine, right?
Exactly.
Don't care.
It's all about
as long
choice.
as people don't get blocked or from what they like. That's the main thing, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So our next bit of feedback is from Kevin Matthews. Hi, Kevin. I don't like him. No, sir, he doesn't. I actually think art works more effectively in short form. So All Hallows Eve is my favourite of all of his appearances. There we go. Another vote for All Hallows Eve. Happy that people have found a new horror icon they can clasp to their bosom, but it doesn't work for me. Terrifier 2 is especially bad, mainly because it starts off with a major gory set piece and then continues on the same level for far too long. You cannot lead to something that feels climactic if you kick things off with such a wallow in excessive bloodshed. There is that. Having said that, I'm okay with climaxes early in a film as long as there's rest time. Does that make sense?
I would agree.
And maybe the rest wasn't quite enough. The decompression wasn't quite enough for that to work.
I do think that's fair to say. Yeah, maybe there's not enough time, but I feel like we did get a decent amount of time to know like Sienna and her family. I really like that first scene. It is really gory, and I mean it's definitely it's going to stay with you. So I see what you're saying there. And
I like the little break in the laundry as well. That kind of made me laugh. The pancake and stuff. Also, Kevin goes, I think Kevin's been very fair here because he doesn't like it. He said some very positive things about something he doesn't particularly like. Kudos to the performers, though. I loved Emily McLean as the little pale girl, accompanying many of Art's antics in the second. No one dislikes the little pale girl, as far as I know.
No.
I don't see why you would. It's a great little addition. Spooky and funny, right?
Exactly.
And then we get some feedback from Mark Ord. Hi, Mark. Personally, I really like the original film. It's just dirty. The kills are fun, and Art the Clown has a menace to him. Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me of the grindhouse slashers like the original Maniac movie from 1999. You know what? I was thinking of Maniac, because that is a skeevy film, but very, very effective. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I believe I have seen Maniac.
Yeah, and I have to say they remade it with Elijah Wood, I believe, but in a slightly different structure. That's a good film. That is a good film.
Is
but
it?
It's
Okay.
it's not that similar to the first. They're both good films, but they're kind of different films. And the second one's very interesting because it takes a first-person perspective for about 80% of the film, which is interesting for a slasher, right?
That is scary and interesting. I agree.
Yeah, and it works. You wouldn't think something that long, that extended first-person would work, but it does. Anyway. Mark goes on. The sequel, though, I hated it. It's too self-indulgent, too long, and takes away the mystery of Art the Clown. The infamous bedroom scene descends into something that is similar to Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons. It's just silly. Cracking soundtrack, though. We hadn't mentioned the soundtrack, have we?
Oh, yeah. Really good
point.
Soundtrack.
Yeah. So, Mark was not much of a fan of the second one.
Yeah. And fair enough for that, too. But I do think that the music, a lot of that kind of what do you call it? Synth audio? Synth audio?
No, it was very carpentry.
Yeah, very 80s kind of vibe. I like it a lot.
Or Daft Punk or something. Yeah.
Stranger Things, that it does that a lot too.
And then final comments from John Souder. Hi, John. I haven't watched these movies yet, but I really love the fact they seem to be straightforward, old-school shock and gore films, playing up the scary clown trope with no sense of irony. The gore effects that I've seen are done amazingly well. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no doubt about that, John.
There's something about them. They're not trash. They're not things like I'm not going to forget the Terrifier in any kind of... or Art the Clown in any kind of rush. Whereas some other films, if I watched, I watched them the next day, I can't really remember much about them.
Yeah.
These films
same.
I remember. That's so I can say that about them.
I think that makes a strong case for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of the quality of it.
Yeah, and the little pale gal is probably the win. And probably Sienna, the final girl, Sienna were the big wins really in this. So not bad at all.
Yeah, I agree. It's we appreciate everybody's feedback on this too. I know it's a big franchise, obviously. So and I mean, I'm excited to see what they do with it from here on out. I really I'm looking forward to the third one whenever it comes out. I suspect it may be a little bit, but I would think that the director can pretty much do what he wants at this point. I mean, he wrote, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he wrote both these films. So and also, did a lot of the makeup effects. So very talented guy. I've only seen one interview with him.
It'd be kind of interesting to see if he got some real money behind him, what he'd do. He'd have to tone it down, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because I think Art the Clown's kind of interested in it anyway. Also, I will go back and watch All Hallows Eve, but it'll probably be in 6 months because I've got a lot of horror to watch anyway, and then I'll need to have a little break from horror.
No doubt
recharge
about it,
my batteries before I get back to that. So next time we record, we're going to be doing a review of horror in 2022, and I don't think it's just films. We'll talk about TV as well. There are some cracking TV shows to talk about.
Yeah, there's just been so much. I mean, more than I even realized until we started, obviously, talking about this, Mark. And now you're watching so many films, and I'm trying to get as many as I can in. But I don't think I'll get near the amount of films that you get in.
Yeah. I'm kind of trying to hit 2 a day right now. I'm not succeeding, but that's what I'm going for. So I'm always watching at least 1 a day. But I'm trying to get 2 in, but some days I've just got stuff on. So, And 2 horror films a day is a lot of horror films.
That is, I mean, you got to let your mind take a break from some of the horror. And it's good to watch just happy stuff sometimes, you know.
Happy stuff, yeah.
It's funny I'm saying that on a Terrifier episode, right?
Yeah. But I have to say that if I was going to comment on any horror TV, I would. The one I've been enjoying the most, and I've watched them all now, so is, and I will be talking about it when we do the review, is What We Do in the Shadows. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, spectacular show.
It never does. It takes wild chances and they work out.
Yeah,
which is quite amazing. I think that's talent. That's just talent. That is.
I think so too. I was going to say, I think a lot of it is the actors involved, and I think the writers are talented too. But I think the actors really managed to pull that off. Yeah. I love the film, the original film, but I think the TV show is actually better than the film, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I think so too. They've taken a long form and really ran with it in a quite spectacular way. Anyway, let's not get into it too much because we'll talk about it next time. So
right.
What I was going to get at is probably about a week before we're going to record, I'll post something on UNH to sort of elicit your comments. I know I did it a couple of months ago, sort of saying what was your favourites of 2022, and I actually said, if I remember rightly, I said mine was Prey, which is still pretty high.
Yeah.
But I will kind of redo that and say again when so we've got some feedback for that show as well and sort of input, so that'd be kind of fun, right? Awesome. So that's what's planned.
Indeed.
And we may have other stuff in the pipeline like Twitchy, but we haven't got anything specifically planned for a specific date at the minute.
Yeah.
But we know what we're going to do, but we
do.
So let's wind up there. I'll hand over to you, Jason.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mark, for doing this episode, and thanks to everyone for listening. We really do appreciate it. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/UN of Horror. Very friendly horror community there, and we really do appreciate those who interact with us. You guys are awesome. I know, of course, social media is all over the place now, so I mean, we do have a Twitter still, and I try to update that, but I will admit a lot of times I forget. So and
I won't update it because I hate Twitter. All right?
You're not missing.
Never used Twitter. We used it for, I think, 6 hours once and turned it off again. It was like, this is terrible. But that's me. I'm old.
Well, you can meet some great horror fans on there, but I will say that the platform it has some problems these days. But that's a different discussion entirely. But
I had my problems years ago. That was before any of this.
Yeah, right. So you're just done with it, man.
Yeah.
And we'll be back soon with even more from the world of horror here on the United Nations of Horror. I'm Jason.
And I'm Mark.
And we'll see you right back here on the United Nations of Horror.